Hi, friends. How are we? I wanted to share with you more of the energetics when it comes to what is known as the wealth corner in our home. I truly believe that our homes and our living spaces are a mirror for how we show up in our world. When you walk in the door and you come home, do you feel a sense of relief? Do you feel like, I can exhale? Or is there a sense of, this doesn't quite feel comfortable, or I need to hide, or there's so much to do, or there's so much going on and you can't settle in? And then you find ways to distract yourself through being on your phone or TV or whatever else may distract you, right? And so I very much believe that while manifestation and law of attraction and so many other things can help when it comes to being the creator of your life, sometimes we just don't have the mental energy. Sometimes we just don't have the bandwidth to do all the things that it involves. Maybe we don't even have the belief system in the space that it needs to be. And so if that's the case, could our home step in to help us? Because I believe that our home is meant to be our safe haven. It is meant to be the grounding nature that sometimes we need when we don't have that physical support, or we're not quite in a space where we feel well enough to move through our day. Our home can become that vessel for us. And so in tending to the home, you're actually tending to your well-being. And from there, you're bringing in more of what you want. And the wealth corner is a beautiful example of that. Because essentially what's happening with the wealth corner, while we're making it, wealthy and vibrant and all of those things to promote abundance, it is a reminder. Every time that you see it, you are reminded that you are an abundant being. You are reminded that wealth lives here. And we want to treat our wealth corner just like we would a plant. Now, many people like to put plants in their wealth corner, which helps because that way, in tending to the plant, you're tending to the wealth corner. In keeping the plant alive, you're keeping the wealth corner alive, right? They go hand in hand. But even if you don't use plants, there are ways that you can feed your wealth corner and keep it alive, which is what we're going to go into. So we're going to talk about what is the wealth corner? Where did it even come from? How can you set it up accordingly? How you can find it in your home? What if it's in an awkward space? What are some backup options if that's the case? Can we pull in astrology? Can we pull in the seasons? We're going to go ahead and cover all of it.
Welcome to the show, Danielle Mercury. Welcome to the show, welcome to the show.
Okay, so most of the time, a wealth corner is referred to from feng shui. And so feng shui was created over 3,000 years ago. That's kind of a hefty, we're talking like before Jesus time, okay? So it started in China, and how it started was it was meant to be a system to help harmonize where humans lived with the elements, with nature, okay? So it was kind of part astronomy, part philosophy, and part geology, if you will. And so it took all of those things into consideration, and then it created what is known as the Bagua map. It's Bagua. Ba means 8, Gua means try. So it comes from the I Ching, which is also a very old ancient Chinese text. And so each of the guas, or the trigrams, represent a natural force in nature. And so that could be our actual earth, the heaven above, thunder, wind, water, fire, mountains, bodies of water like lake, ocean. And together they form an energetic template that then we apply to the land, to homes, and our personal life. Now, I do a lot of this work with astrocartography as well, and I think there's a really cool sweet spot for all of it, which we'll talk about in another episode. I want to dedicate more into how feng shui and astrocartography can go together. But in the meantime, when we talk about classical feng shui, the Bagua is basically curated based on the compass and the directions that the compass go within the home. Now, in more modern times, we also use a floor plan, and we basically will take the Bagua map and place it over the floor plan and see how things flush up. So there's a couple different ways to look at it based on how things are orchestrated. And also, too, when this was created, it was during a time, or so we think, when things were kind of being built from the ground up. And so it was easier to utilize the compass, noting, okay, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Like, how do we position the homes we're building accordingly, where it's not taken into consideration as much. I'm not saying that it isn't, because I think there's a lot of homes that still are, and it's really interesting. The more homes I go into, the more I see how they are incorporated. But sometimes just, depending on the land, depending on the foundation, you can't always align the house a certain way. And that's why the floor plan comes in. So when we're looking for our wealth corner in our home, it's governed by the southeast direction. Okay, so southeast is wealth and prosperity. So if you were to take a compass and go to where that hub is, that's your wealth corner. Now, another way that you can do this is to walk in your front door. And so as soon as you walk in your front door, you are going to go straight as far as you can. Okay. Once you go straight as far as you can, then you're going to go left as far as you can. And then that becomes your wealth corner. Okay. You could also look at it as, if you walk in the front door, what is the most left corner of the home? That could also represent wealth for you as well. The main thing is that we're focusing on left. Okay. We want left energy. And then why the southeast, though? Why that direction? Why left? Well, that's because it's ruled by the wood element. And wood symbolizes growth, vitality, upward rising, upward expansion. Kind of like how trees, what do? They grow what? Upward. Right? They grow towards where? The heavens. They grow towards the sky. And how are the trees nourished? Well, they're nourished by water and sunlight. And so when the trees get that water, they get that sunlight, what do? They grow, and they are flourishing from that. And then they are able to provide abundance through leafy greens, branches, fruit, nuts, a home for animals, you name it. So the wealth corner symbolizes the energy of a tree. So that's why a lot of times a money tree might be placed in a wealth corner, because it literally is bringing in that wood element and tree energy. Also, the wealth was always kind of tied in, you always wanted to update your wealth corner around the harvest or around times when the crops were more fertile. Because it was believed that, when there is a time of abundant crops, then that means there's more wealth in the home, there's more stability, there's more ability to trade and exchange, etc. Also, the wealth corner is not just about making money. Like I said, it's about stability, sustainability, right? What does it mean to have sustainable wealth in your home? And wealth also applies to your health. And it applies to your life force, your vitality. So those are things that we want to keep in mind. And so if the wood element is weak or leaky, then the abundance is stunted as well. That's why I can't tell you how many times I go to someone's home or I get photos from someone of their wealth corner and there's a dead plant. And I'm like, well, you just, the tree is dead. It's not flourishing here. So we've got to change that, right? And it could be because there's something off with the energetics of that space that need to be cleared, right? So that's one thing. Sometimes it might be, there's some stuck energy from the previous owner, stuck energy from someone that used to live here, stuck energy that you're carrying around abundance and money, stuck energy around, maybe there's a spirit that's kind of haunting that space and holding on to the vitality that it holds for itself, and you're not getting that. So that's one reason why the plant might be dead. Another reason could be you're not tending to it. You're not actually taking care of it. You're not really feeding it. And so therefore it's not going to just, the wealth corner isn't that powerful that it's just going to take care of everything for you. It's about you creating the space and then keeping it alive from that place. And another thing that was believed with why feng shui was created was it was so that households would survive. It was so that there would be continued harmony and flow in the household, and then that would expand into their lineage, into generations that come, allowing there to be a flow for those that come after, right? And so that's something that we don't think about as much when we think about, when you move into an apartment or a new home, if it's not a new build, whether you realize it or not, the former tenants are passing the torch to you. And so depending on how they kept to the space, you're going to take that on a little bit. So these are all things that we want to keep in mind. That's why I do the home attunement audits, because it's an easy way for you to be like, okay, Danielle, here's what's going on. Here's my wealth corner. Here are some photos. Here's what's up with my health, wealth, vitality. What are you picking up on? And then I'm able to kind of give you a read based on that and then help you redesign your wealth corner accordingly, and then do any kind of remote clearing if needed also. Okay, so that's some of the background of where the wealth corner came from per se. And again, why I really like it is because it's a mirror. It's a mirror to us, a reminder of how we hold value, how we expand, how we trust this life. And then also, we want to make sure that in the wealth corner, in the room of the wealth corner, that we're decluttering. Clutter holds more energetic weight than anything else in our home. Because what's happening is clutter doesn't have a purpose, right? And you can say, and don't be wrong, I can be this person, right? I'm like, this is organized clutter. This is organized chaos. Yes, it's clutter, but I understand the clutter. You're still calling it clutter. So clutter is clutter, right? And clutter is the energy of scatteredness, the energy of not being anchored, the energy of I don't belong. I don't have a place to go, right? And so clearing clutter creates space. And it creates openness, which then revitalizes the chi, the flow of the space, so that good energy can circulate, more harmony can run through. And then from that, you bring in more opportunity that feel purposeful and feel like they would have a place in your space. Okay. Now, let's say you're like, Danielle, my wealth hub is my fridge, or my wealth corner is like a utility closet, or it's just something that's kind of awkward. Now, if it's your fridge, you now have been gifted the task of always having a clean fridge, right? Keeping it stocked, keeping it abundant, making sure that there's nothing expired in there. Making sure it's clean, like I said, well stocked are things that could help it. And you could put something at the top, put a little citrine at the top of the fridge, or depending on the lighting, you could put a plant up there, right? So you could get creative. But if you're really in a jam and you're like, okay, it is a utility closet where the water cooler is, or it's just something like really just not easy to view, and it's not giving you what you actually want out of a wealth corner, then just pick the left corner of another room. So when you walk into the room, if you're walking through the door frame, what is the back left area? So like I'm in my office right now. My office is not aligned with the wealth corner, but I'm sitting at my desk, which faces the window. To the left of my desk would be considered the most far left corner. And I've created a little wealth altar there. And I have what's it called? Yellow quartz, citrine. I have my golden Buddha. I have a bell to cast away any spirits that want to hone in on my money. I keep my incense burning there. That's my wood element. And I have a couple coins as well. And that just kind of, even though it's not my main wealth corner, it still symbolizes wealth in that hub. So you could do that. You could even just do like the top left corner of your work desk as a micro wealth corner. So you can play around with those angles in that way. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the wealth corners are like a more interactive vision board. You know, they're here to remind you of what's possible, and intending, like I was saying earlier, intending to your wealth corner, you're tending to your finances, you're tending to your well-being. It's like an active ritual that's happening. And so, yes, is it ideal if it can be in the most appropriate direction? Yes. At the end of the day, if you have, you know, this wealth hub that you're tending to, wonderful. If you decide to put a little bit of pyrite on the left corner of your desk and that's that, great. That's your little reminder, right? That's the symbolism of it. And I show you in the show notes, you'll see there's a link to create your own wealth corner. It's totally free. It's 3 pages, really easy. I show you, once again, how to find your wealth corner and then how to decorate it, how to keep it alive, how to keep it going. A lot of people like to use, you know, pictures, frames, running water. You can add in a fountain, right? Anything that symbolizes light, gold, wood, water elements, right? What is it, you know, what is it symbolizing when it comes to richness and fertility and growth? Now, I also like to tie in astrology. So I don't really follow Chinese astrology too much. I mean, I definitely will look at the Chinese zodiac every year. I know the year that I was born. So I think it's helpful to bring those in, but by trade, as you probably all know, I'm a Western astrology girly. So I started thinking, okay, Western astrology, wealth corner, how can we tie those in together? And so a way that you can do that is through the houses. So in astrology, we have 12 houses. The first house is our rising sign. So our rising sign is the impression that we give the world. And then it moves through another 11 houses, which are all kind of themes of how we navigate the human journey. So when you look at your chart, you'll see your rising sign, then you'll see, you know, house 2. And whatever sign that's in, house 2 represents personal income, values, self-worth. It's how you make money, how money comes through you, how you feel called to generate wealth. So that's second house. Then 8th house, this is another important money one, is shared resources, inheritance, other people's money, investments. It's how you receive money. Okay, so second house is how you generate money. 8th house is how you receive money. So I'd be curious to look at what signs they're in. Right? If your second house is in, let's say, Taurus, well, Taurus we know is already a very earthy sign. So how can we bring in some of those Taurus elements? Maybe we even want to put in a golden bull. Maybe we want to bring in, you know, some more of the wood elements because it is so tied to earth. Right? And then the opposing would be Scorpio, 8th house, right? So that's how you receive. So maybe for that, you want to bring in a crystal that kind of represents, you know, Scorpio is very intuitive, is also water, right? So maybe you want to bring in like an angelite crystal or a clear quartz or something that you feel like represents that Scorpion energy, but also honors the idea of receiving. You could also see where Jupiter is in your chart, right? Like if your Jupiter is, let's say, in Leo, which, you know, you would be going through your Jupiter return next year. If your Jupiter is currently in Cancer up until July of 2026, we have Jupiter and Cancer together. This would be a pretty good time to blend in that element of Jupiter and Cancer. And I mean, you could be cheeky and literally put like a little crab figurine on it. And that crab represents your Jupiter, you know, abundant nature, because Jupiter is growth, opportunities, luck. But let's say you are like Jupiter Leo, you can put a little lion there. Why not? put a little sun that represents, lion. You could put a picture of Jupiter. Another planet that you might want to incorporate into your wealth corner is Venus. Venus is about magnetism, attraction, things coming easy. So how do you want to blend that in, right? That's definitely a way to do it as well. And then, a good time to tend to your wealth corner, definitely every new moon. Now, if there's eclipses, you don't want to do that. But if it's a typical new moon, that's the best time to go in, freshen up, see how it's doing, maybe add some intentions. I like to keep, if I have a bigger bill or a larger expense that I need to pay, I put that on there and I let it charge in my wealth corner. And then I just simply ask, let me know who's paying for this. I can't wait to see who's paying for this. I wonder who's paying for this. And it creates inquiry, and that inquiry needs to be solved. So that's one of the things that I like to do. Take moments to light a candle and just sit with your wealth corner for a little bit and say thank you, bringing in gratitude, bringing in affirmations, and then just tending to it like you would any of your other plants, any of your other spaces within your home. And I really believe that the big thing to realize with your wealth corner, it's not just about how do I make money. It's about how do I live my life in an abundant way? How do I incorporate vitality? How do I incorporate growth? How do I incorporate alignment with my life? Right? So I encourage you to take a look at your home and figure out where it is if you haven't already. If you do know where it is, does it need a little, love? Does it need a little touch up? And depending too on your life and what's currently going on, maybe it needs to be changed, right? Like maybe it needs to be swapped out. Maybe your goals have shifted. So those are some things that you want to think about as well. And again, like I said, I have a free guide to curating your wealth corner. So check that out in the show notes. Definitely reach out if you're curious about having me look at your wealth corner. It's kind of my favorite thing to do. I love when people send me photos of their wealth corner and then I help them enhance it. And I'm loving when I go to people's homes and finding their wealth corner for them and seeing what is working, what isn't. Oh, also, this actually brings up a good point. For some reason, I see this happen all the time. I can't tell you how many people have vacuums in their freaking wealth corner, like either like a Roomba or like a little handheld, or they're keeping it like propped up in the corner. We do not want vacuums in our wealth corner. What do vacuums do? They vacuum. They suck things up. They drain resources. So be careful too of that kind of stuff, right? It's not just about what's there, like in a good way, but also just noticing like, wait a minute, there's a vacuum here, or wait a minute, I have this really beautiful water fountain that plugs in and it lights up, but the cord is all tangled, right? Like little things like that. Anyway, all that to say though, I love looking at your corners and kind of helping you manage them and elevate them. And it's really cool to see updates, especially when I hear like, oh my gosh, the plant that's here has grown so much, or, I just got this unexpected thing that came through that was connected to something that I put on my wealth altar. So we love all these things. Get the free guide. And I feel like the next topic will be, how do we weave in astrocartography with feng shui? But let me know if there's any other topics around this you want me to explore.